dick.
Hey, Sydney, any TV projects coming down the pike? Well, I guess not. Well, we've had a pretty action-packed show so far. Not much left to do, but check in with Layla. Layla, how you doing down there?
I'm getting ready to make my move, Dick.
Yeah, I think we just heard that a couple of minutes ago.
There's Dennis. Got around.
Oh, there's Dennis Miller. Right?
Okay.
There he is.
All right.
Dennis remembers it.
Hello.
Hey, are you okay?
Oh, you're Dennis Miller.
And you're Joey Hefferton.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Whoa!
Okay, we are back with It's Radio TV's Tim Stack, and we're talking to Dennis Miller. Dennis, do you remember doing that? It was a clip from Nightstand, and I just want to, it was sort of out of context, but I wanted to play it because I really wanted to, and I've told you this, but I'll compliment you on the air, which is when I started doing the show Nightstand, there were two people who came to me. Now, there were plenty of people I asked, hey, could you do a spot on the show? And they came in. But there were two people who offered, said, hey, if you need me to come in, I'm there. One was Harry Anderson and one was Dennis Miller, who came in and did a spot because getting, when you do shows in syndication, getting ratings and getting anything to promote to get a viewer, as Dennis can testify, having been in that syndication world, it's really crucial because you're trying to stay on the air and make some money and have fun. So anyway, thank you again for doing the Nightstand for
Well, you listen, we knew each other then. You were an everyman who I thought was insanely funny. I mean, I like regular people, Tim, and that's why I'm up here to a large degree. I think you do too. I don't want to paint myself like a living out beyond the pillars of Hercules, but I always thought you were a hail fellow, well met. I love the way you were with the kids. I think remember we coached the team for a while. I always thought this is as insanely funny as a regular guy gets, and that's a great mashup for me.
Yeah. Yes, we had fun. The kids, oh my God, the comments going back and forth between us as our team is either winning or losing. I think they won some games, but it was really fun watching the boys grow up together. And yeah, really fun. So I want to get to Saturday Night Live, but I also wanted, because I did have another trivia, not a trivia question, but back from the old days. Can you remember your first comedy album that you bought?
Yeah, it was Woody, where he told the story about the deer hunter. Remember that?
Oh, yes.
I shot a deer.
Yes.
I was intoxicated by it reminded me of that opening shot in Touch of Evil, where it's all handheld and it goes on for 4 minutes. It just meanders and then at the end the car blows up in the Orson Welles film. And I always liked that long meander. And Woody I love that he set down that tentpole thing. I shot a deer. And then it goes off on a 4-minute story. So I was fascinated by that. I bought that album first. I also bought Steve's album, the great Steve Martin, who obviously lives up here for part of the year. We see him. But he was like I talk about the other 4 people being but I knew them a little bit, so they impacted me on that level. Steve was a god to me, but
yes,
my favorite stand-up comedian. He used to make me laugh just so uproariously, and I never thought I'd get to meet him. So I bought his album where it's the close-up of him with the balloon animal on his head and the crazy schnoz and glasses, and that was important to me too. Only in the regard, like I said, I didn't learn much from that because our comedic styles are so different. But I've never laughed as hard as that. When he would do that stuff in the interim, he's explained the high-low theory to me. He likes highbrow comedy, Nichols and May, or he likes lowbrow comedy. His favorite funny film to him is The Oscar with Stephen Boyd, which I share a love for that film. But he likes the high-low. So when he would do that attitude where he'd say, just got back from here, saw London, saw France, saw my girlfriend's other. That used to wipe me out that he was so smart, and yet he would kneel down to scoop from
Such a low level.
the common stream of humor. Made me laugh.
That's funny. My first album, George Carlin, was my second album that I bought, the AM and FM album, which I love. But my first album that I bought, I had never bought a comedy album, but I saw Flip Wilson on the Ed Sullivan Show, and he just killed me. It was Christopher Columbus. It was Black Christopher Columbus. And I, coming from Doylestown, Pennsylvania, we had 3 Black families who were just like everybody else. And so to see that on the Tonight Show, it was just, my brother and I hit the floor laughing. And I ran up to Perlman's record store the next day and bought the Flip Wilson Cowboys and Indians album. And on there is that Christopher Columbus routine.
Tim, you just reminded me of another one that I hadn't thought of in so many years, but I think Cause had an album called Why Is There Air or something.
Oh, yes.
That I had, which made me laugh. And when you get off vinyl and get into video, the first thing I saw, along with Robin's special where you just wiped out, is when Pryor, that first special, he's got the orangish shirt on and he gets out of the limo. I think it's down in Long Beach. And he's so center of it, the coolest cat. So, those Pryor's, his rhythms and that just absolutely intoxicating. And I would sit there and go, "Oh my God, does this guy know how to play a joke?"
So, I know you've told this probably 1,000 times, but I love what it led to was this dinner with Lorne Michaels. But how did you get to Saturday Night Live? How did that happen?
I think they had I was in LA. Leno saw me in Pittsburgh. I opened for him and we got on well. Sorry to lean in like that, but I was starting to slouch. And he said, "You want to get out to LA?" And like I said, I saw a comedian in the interim I had sold a couple jokes to in Pittsburgh. He did them on the Tonight Show. And Carson was laughing really hard at one of the jokes. And I was sitting in an earthen floor apartment somewhere with a, carbon monoxide threatening heating system for $60 a month. I thought, man, I am not built to shovel these jokes out the door for $25 a pop and watch them score with Carson. So I said, I've got to become the unlikely conduit for these, although I was very shy and immensely frightened, but I thought I've got to force through that. There are worse things. It's not like you're in a jungle in Vietnam, so shut up. So I started I opened for Leno. I was the MC. We got on well because he's a working class hero. I admired that about Jay. An insanely funny one. I don't want to paint it like it's Woody Guthrie, but he was, he had that. It was more normal. So I felt I could approach that. And he said, "You got to get out there." So he got me an apartment, or found me an apartment from a friend who was moving. And I remember it was it was at the corner of Fairfax and Wilshire.
Yeah.
And eventually that famous rapper got shot there, right on that corner.
There was
I don't know the rappers, but Tupac Shakur, and he had an adversary, a guy who was Biggie.
Biggie Smalls.
Yeah, I think he got shot. Anyway, Jay gets me an apartment, and the guy next to me is the cat from Elf. Who's not Elf, but the guy.
Yeah, the father.
Yeah, he's pretty troubled. Let's just say that. And I thought, oh my God, I don't even know if it would exist out here in Los Angeles. It was so different, but that got me to LA. I'm sorry, I was off on a riff there. What was the point of departure?
Basically, Saturday Night Live. How did that happen? And I really want
they had an audition.
The story with the dinner afterwards.
Yeah, I went to the Comedy Store, and Frank and Davis were taking over the show that year, and they auditioned people, and I did a pretty good audition. I remember I didn't flinch. I remember. Even at that stage, I remember thinking, "Listen, go for this. What are you, Christ, you're nervous enough about anything. Go for this." Right. I did a nice audition. They bring you to round 2, which is in New York. I fly in. I remember they had these old planes. I don't even know if they're around anymore, called an L-1011. You might as well have been in a Cinemax theater or something. They've got 2 seats on the outside, 2 seats on the outside, 5 in the middle.
Yeah, I do.
I'm in the middle seat next to this crazy bastard, Lovitz, who I don't know at that point. And we're flying, and Victoria was there, Damon, but I remember sitting next to Lovitz, flying into the unknown, literally, because you can't believe you've been asked to at least go to the second stage.
Right.
So I asked Lovitz what he does. I said, I'm just a comedian and I do jokes. And Lovitz says, oh, I do characters. I go, well, what are you most proud of? And he's, I've got a guy who lies a lot. And I remember, I think, what do you mean, John? And he said, well, he can't tell the truth about anything. And he did a little of it, on a plane out of context without any of the trappings of Tommy Flynn, the president of Pathological Liars Anonymous. It's sort of like your thing. I just remember sitting there. Seinfeld and I laughed about it later in life. He said, you know what? When you see somebody limping on the Serengeti plane, you know you can feed on them. And that's what I remember thinking about Lovitz. Is I remember thinking, oh, I might not be getting the show, but I'm going to beat this guy out because that's the craziest audition I've ever heard. So this is when I knew John was a genius. Is later when we were on Saturday Night Live, and I'll loop back around to the audition. But it was the first show, and he was going to do Tommy Flanagan at Weekend Update. And in the dress rehearsal, and up to this point, you're so busy. And he was nice, John, and I hit it off. God, I talked to John a couple of days ago. You talked to him. He said, I love John with all my heart, but at that point, you don't know each other that well. I introduced him at dress rehearsal, the president of Pathological Liars Anonymous, Tommy Flanagan. And he goes out and he does pretty well with it. But he comes up to me after dress and he says, Dennis, it's Tommy Flanagan. And he said, don't you see, he's so pathological. He can't even say a common Irish name like Flanagan without the embellishment. That's when I stood back. I said, oh, I get it. He is a genius. I mean, John's a genius in a way. That nuance is so gave me gooseflesh, just as he says it out. He could not even tell the truth about the most common of Irish names. I thought, wow, what an insight. So anyway,
we got to take another break. Hold on. We're going to
sorry.
pick this story up on the B side. I will add, I'm bragging here, that I was not the one who told John that can be a character. He did it on a panel at the Groundlings, that there's a whole world with that. But I will take credit for telling John that's the ticket is your catchphrase.
Oh,
like
Jesus.
I was just like, John,
I've got the paper.
that's anyway, I'm talking to Dennis Miller. This is really, really fun. You're listening to It's Radio with TV's Tim Stack, and we will be right back.